Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Niosi. You probably know me better as Kirbopher. I'm an animator, writer, artist, actor, general content creator, do a whole lot of different things. If you know me from Martin stuff on his channel, I voiced Noah Kaiba, the abridged version of Noah in Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series, as well as a few other characters throughout the show, kind of scattered around. I was also the animator for the Leather Pants music video and some other stuff like that throughout the show. And I've been friends with Martin since, I want to say, like 2009 or 10 or so, a long time. And he's become a good pal of mine. And he reached out to myself and a whole bunch of other folks about doing these guest spots on We're Still Here. I really love this series, and I've been loving all the stuff that Martin's been talking about. It's been a really incredible experience watching them. I know it's been an incredible experience for him doing them. And I've been very happy to see that he's been sharing a lot of these thoughts with everybody, as he kind of gets on his road to, not even just necessarily recovery, but just doing better and improving himself and, finding a lot of solutions and answers and solace in all of you guys and, and most importantly, helping a lot of you all out there. And I was sitting on doing one of these for a while, and I'm recording this right now in October. I'm not sure when this will go up, but either way, I wanted to join in and do something for this. But I wanted to really make sure that I had some good subjects to tackle in relation to the whole thing. So I waited a little while, and I was able to come up with a thing that really makes me happy and a thing that is related to my own personal issues, kind of in line with the format of the show. So thanks for. If you're watching this and tuning in, much appreciated. And Martin, thank you for letting me do this as well. I'll start off with a thing that makes me happy: storytelling. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with a lot of the stuff that I do, my main thing is I produce animated cartoons and things for the internet. I've been doing stuff way back in the day on Newgrounds. No, not even way back in the day, but on Newgrounds I did stuff like the Super Freaking Parody Rangers series. I did the Nintendo collabs, which I directed with a whole bunch of my friends, a bunch of other animators who are very, very talented. Kira Buckland and I did the Brawl Taunts trilogy of silly Smash Brothers cartoons from many years ago. And then the show I've been doing for the last 4 years now, which we're actually close to celebrating the anniversary of, the 4-year anniversary of, is Tome, Terrain of Magical Expertise, which I worked with Martin as the voice of Nihilok, who's become kind of a fan favorite character, and he's had a really great positive impact on a lot of people. So I started, Tome was the first time I really started producing stuff online that was the type of stuff that I always wanted to do, which was original content with my own characters and my own stories and my own kind of points of self-expression, which is going to be kind of the whole main theme of what I'm going to talk about. But I've been doing that for the last 4 years now, and it was a really, really great experience getting to do it. And in the last month or so, I actually just got bumped up to the head of story on a video game project that I'm working on called Cryomore. And I've basically become the head scriptwriter of the project. So I've been in charge of writing all of the all the major cutscenes and scenarios and all the dialogue and everything, collaboratively, of course, with the crew. And which has been a really great experience for a few different reasons. For one thing, it's the first time that I've ever written for an actual game, which I've dreamt about for many years, getting to work on a video game. The folks who work on the game were kind enough to trust me with that position, more or less. And I spent the last month solid writing all the major cutscenes and everything, like I was saying. It was a really incredible experience because I got to work in an entire team. What was different about this is that I had the entire development staff of the whole game collaborating with me. I was the one doing the majority of the actual writing in our big story document and everything, but I had the two creators, Rob and Alan. I can speak English. Did you know that? And as well as the other folks, all the artists and programmers and everything weighing in with different ideas and things. And that was an amazing, unforgettable experience. I feel like I really learned a lot, and I'm really proud of the story that that I was able to turn out as a result of that. And Martin, it's been a while since I've watched some of the earlier episodes, of We're Still Here, but there was one he was talking about writing. I've always known Martin, even though we all, of course, we know him for his voices and his videos and everything, but I've always known Martin first and foremost as a writer, because he's always put so much emphasis to me on how much he loves writing. In fact, I think that he even said in the episode, sorry, that was the main reason he, in terms of like pursuing a career. Obviously, of course, he was getting married to Mariana. But in terms of like pursuing work, he wanted to be a writer out here. And he was talking about how the feeling that he gets from just writing stuff is unlike anything else that, he's ever done creatively. And of course, he does a lot of different creative things. What I was realizing recently as I was writing the story for Cryamore, I love doing visual art. People know that I do animation, I draw stuff. I also love working with other artists. I love working with actors. I love working with musicians. There's something different, and I can't quite describe it. I think the closest thing I can get to a proper description of it is, I think it's like, it's just pure, you're creating stuff when you're writing. You're just getting the idea itself, whatever you had in your head, down on paper or, in the Word file, whatever it is. It's just there. It just exists. And, writing this whole thing, I stopped and I said to myself, this feels different. It feels unlike anything else that I do creatively. And I do a lot of different things. But in some ways, I think I even kind of like it more than animating or drawing. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe I'm not even fully right about that, but I will say that in doing it, I grew to love it much more than I even remembered. And it had been a long time. I hadn't written something so in depth since the 6 episodes of Tome Season 2, which was, God, a year and a half, 2 years ago, maybe even by this point. So that was getting to just spend a solid month on that was a really unforgettable experience, and I'm so happy and I'm so grateful and satisfied with the crew for letting me be able to do that. And very soon I'm going to be able to start doing the voice recording for it as well, which is going to be exciting. What I also realized, I think this is the other kind of description I can give to why I personally enjoy writing, and especially why I enjoy writing big stories with a lot of characters and a big overarching plot and a lot of development and everything. I realized as I was going through the script for Cryamore that I had this feeling that was very similar to a feeling I would have as a kid when I would be waking up on Saturday morning, or even just looking forward to Saturday morning, back when Saturday morning cartoons were more often a thing, is looking forward to when there'd be a new installment of a story I was following. Particularly stuff like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, fittingly here, Mega Man, Jackie Chan Adventures, most of the stuff on Kids WB and Foxbox or for Kids TV as it was later. There was just this like really magical, childlike, but obviously I was a kid at the time, feeling about like, oh man, what's going to happen next? I can't wait to see it. And as I was writing this story, because I was working with somebody else's creation, I was taking somebody else's characters and fitting it into the scope of the gameplay. And we had, basic ideas of how we wanted the story to progress. We fleshed out the lore together and the whole universe and everything. But I was the one who was jotting it all down, for the final product. And I was getting that same excitement as I was moving forward to the script. There were, I want to say, about like 9 or 10 chapters of the full story, as they were split up into different parts of the game's overall story. And I would say I spent maybe 2 to 3 days or so on each chapter. It was such a trip getting to do it, and seeing how it was unfolding, and imagining the conversations between the characters unfold in my head, and then jotting them down. It's like, there they are, and then I'm going to get to record that with the actors, and it's going to be in the game, and it's going to be a thing, and it's so exciting. Having that now is incredible, and not to mention, maybe this is a little bit more of the self-indulgent side of it, I guess, but it's the truth. The other thing that I'm very, very happy about that I get to experience now with all the stuff that I've done is now I get to see what kind of impact it leaves on people. With Tome, for those of you who don't know, earlier this year in the summer, on 4th of July weekend, I went to Anime Expo. And I was there with all the main cast of Tome. A bunch of them all had flown out from different places and some different countries in some cases. to be there for when we screened the final episode of the series in a room and on a panel with all of us. And we had a whole room full of people who followed the show and were big into it. And I got to see, and we recorded it as well, their live reactions and their emotional attachment to these characters and everything. And it was so incredible. And unfortunately, Martin was very, very sick that whole weekend, and he was a trooper for sticking through. He and Mariana at the Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge booth, because of course they had to make money. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to be there for the panel on Sunday morning, which we felt really bad about. We gave him a little thank you and get well soon message and everything. But yeah, I mean, in the case of Martin too, because I certainly want to give him credit since this is his channel after all. Martin has been a key player because the fact that he's been the actor who's portrayed Nilok since the beginning of the show, he, for one thing, he's a joy to work with in every recording session. He was always making me laugh and giving a great performance. The point is, yeah, Martin's inclusion to the show, and I was resistant to have him on the part because I didn't want to have it come off as like a transparent, featuring LittleKuriboh, whoa, special guest star, internet famous or whatever. I didn't want to go that route, but he was so perfect for that character, and I do not regret casting him at all because he's grown very attached and appreciative for getting able to play him, but also just the fact that like the character he's such an overwhelming force of positivity in the world of the show, and people love him so much that I'm incredibly proud of what he's done for a lot of people, including myself. He's made a big impact on me, to be totally honest. If you haven't seen the show before, which is totally cool, and if you ever have any interest in checking it out, I won't spoil anything major, but I'll say that Nilok and this other character, Game Cray, is played by our friend Casey Mongelo, another very talented actress. The two of them, their arcs throughout the whole course of the show, I'm the most proud of, especially in how they impacted myself, the actors that portrayed them, the people who watched and enjoyed the show and became attached to the characters. I'm so satisfied with how they turned out. And, doing Tome was a big learning experience, but I'm very, very happy that I was able to finish it in the way that I intended and have all the people on it that were so amazing to work with and were great. And it helped me scratch this itch of like creativity where I got out of college and I was like, I need to do something. This is this type of stuff that I really want to do. And oh my God, And this was my first big original project that people knew me for, and I'm so happy for that. So, and if you have seen it, then thank you as well for checking it out, and if you're a fan of it or anything. But yeah, so storytelling in all those veins has made me overjoyed, and it really is one of the major things that just kind of keeps me going in life. And tying into the next kind of the more serious end of this video, I'm going to talk about the next thing, which ties directly into the thing that makes me happy, which is a sense of doing the right thing. For those of you who maybe haven't followed me from my channel, I do a lot of these vlogs that I call Kirblogs because I'm so clever like that. And I'm probably going to repeat a lot of information that you may or may not have heard on those if you do follow them. So I apologize to any of my listeners who are seeing this that might be a little bit of a broken record, but either way, it bears repeating. So when I was a kid, my parents split up very early on, and they've since remarried, and they've been friends with each other. My mom and dad, even after remarrying, they've been totally cool with each other because they wanted their splitting up to be very low impact on me. I think I was like maybe 4 or 5 years old when it happened. So that was kind of the environment I was in, going back and forth between both houses, and it was totally fine. And I have Asperger's syndrome, which is a form of autism, for those of you who don't know. High functioning, as I would hope is obvious. But as a kid, I was a nightmare. I was not a troublemaker, and I was not a problem child necessarily, but I was definitely a brat. I was very heavily spoiled because my parents, being split up, they wanted to keep me happy, and so a lot of things about life, very important life skills, I had to learn and teach myself. And that's not to say that my parents were irresponsible in any regard. They're wonderful people. They work incredibly hard to give me a nice, stable environment. They have always been infinitely supportive of all of the, the creative stuff that I do, knowing full well that choosing the life of an artist is not an easy one to follow, because you're never guaranteed to make money and survive. But knowing that, they were incredibly supportive, and I owe them everything. And they definitely instilled a good sense of right and wrong into my being. So not to take any credit away from them, but the point is that because I was very socially awkward. Of course, I was a nerd, so I was picked on. I was very obnoxious. I'm still very obnoxious. Loud, over animated, zany type of person. That's just, kind of how I always have been. But a lot of things about, how to carry myself and how to interact with others and how to be tactful and how to not be rude and how to be respectful. A lot of that I had to learn by trial and error, and I had to teach myself because I didn't get it until I want to say by the end of high school. By the end of high school, it finally hit me that all the people who were making fun of me and being dickholes or whatever, they weren't going to amount to anything, and they weren't going to have any really real impact on my life. So, and as I especially began to meet a lot more fellow creative people like myself at my school, or especially through the internet when I started producing stuff online and making my early Newgrounds cartoons and everything. It was a really big learning experience, and I was able to, what I hope and what I think was develop into a better person. And particularly what I kind of had to figure out on my own was I had to develop my own personal sense of what I considered to be right and wrong. And I think a lot of people go through this sort of thing as well, where, they have their own, they have their own senses of morality, of, they're cool with this. I'm straight edge. I used to be super judgmental and no, don't, after school special about drugs and alcohol and, et cetera. And I've become much more chill out about that as of late, as I've, met a lot more different types of people, more or less. But the other thing is, and I'm sure, everybody goes through this type of stuff. Throughout my life, I've made a lot of really stupid mistakes with people. I've lost friends. I've alienated people. I've, made myself look like a fool in a lot of different ways. And, and in the worst cases of those is I've hurt people. And, Martin has definitely talked about some stuff like this before as well. And, of course we all try to be the best people that we can be. And, we all try to find what we consider to be okay, this is how to be a good person. Don't do what this person did because that's bad, etc. Basic shit. But, I feel like you don't really learn the nuts and bolts of what that means until you've made mistakes, and really learned as a result of them. Kaiser Neko of Team 4-Star fame, the head honcho of them, he's talked about how Dragon Ball Z Abridged is kind of a self-expression for him. Something that's happened with me recently, I guess to some extent it's always been that way, but much more so recently because it's been more of, I've tried to go a little bit deeper as to what am I saying with my stories, with my writing, where I have a lot of the stories that I work on, both cases like Tome, where it's entirely my own thing, or in cases like with Cryamore, where I integrated a lot of my personal life experiences into the development of the characters, and kind of all integrated them into how the story was progressing. They are in different ways self-expressions of my life experiences and what I've gone through and what I've learned. And the biggest consistent thing, especially with the story that I just wrote for Cryamore, it's all about when you're really trying to do what you believe in your heart is the right thing. And as I've learned, people who know me very well, they also joke that I'm a little bit of a Boy Scout. Again, I'm straight edge, and I'm not so much a prude, but I'm not very daring. I'm pretty just no, we must blah, 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 do the thing for the right of everybody, and et cetera, I don't even know what the hell I just said. The point is, I very much believe in my own sense of this is good and this is bad, and everything in between. But what I've also learned as a result of that, when you try to do what you think this is the right thing for everybody's best interests, this is what I think is going to benefit everybody, it doesn't always turn out that way. And what I often have to keep myself in check of is not being selfish. And that can be very difficult for just when you're a human being, when you have that thought process. I had an epiphany not too long ago where a family member of mine passed away, my step-aunt, who I would see at a lot of different holidays and get-togethers and things. I wasn't incredibly close with them, but they were really sweet, and unfortunately they passed away. Funnily enough, as I was told later, because they're the type of person who my step-aunt is the type of person who very much puts who puts everybody else before herself. And she got sick and she wasn't treated in time, and unfortunately she passed away, and it was very sad. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there to mourn with my family, and I couldn't go to the funeral and everything. I had to stay home, but I was able to just lend some support to my dad and my stepmom as best as I could from here. But after that happened, I tried to just kind of stay chill about it, and I had a talk with a good friend of mine, and I had this kind of epiphany where I really was just like, I dug deep into my thoughts, and I was like, I don't know if I'm a good person, if I'm really as good of a person as I think I am, or as I want to be, or as I maybe even pride myself or carry myself on being, because sometimes I really dig down and analyze, like, is everything that I do, every major thing that I do, especially when it involves other people, is it for some kind of internal selfish purpose? Even if I don't actually think it, even if I don't acknowledge it, is what I'm doing for some kind of self-serving purpose? Like, for instance, I was talking earlier about Anime Expo. This friend of mine who was there at the convention, they commended me on my leadership skills and my wanting to entertain and have a great time and show a good weekend, to the people who flew in from out of country and out of state, etc., to be there for doing this tone panel with me. This friend of mine said that was very, very commendable, and he was very proud of me. And then I said, yeah, but maybe even if I just dissected it, does it come down to, I just wanted them to be there for marketing purposes, because I want to do this panel and I want everybody to appreciate how much work I put into this stupid cartoon that I worked on for 4 years, and oh my God, whatever. And of course they disagreed, and I want to agree with their disagreeing. But objectively, when I think to myself, it's like, is that what it is? And a thought process like that, it could apply to almost anything and everything that I do. I don't know. And I've had a lot of cases where in other times, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. I'm making this conscious effort to have everybody else in mind for this thing that I'm doing. And I'm going to do it, and it's hopefully going to benefit all the people that I want. That I want it to benefit, and I'm doing something good for everybody. Yeah, and then as it turns out, that thing that I did not only doesn't help, it makes things worse, and it maybe even hurts the people involved. I've had a lot of cases like that, and I won't go into specifics, but I've had a lot of cases like that, and when that happens, because of the fact that I try to hold on to my morals very tight, and I try to tell myself, as other people tell me, it's like, no, I'm a good person. I'm really trying to do the right thing for everybody. And I don't know. And then when it blows up in my face, and especially if it impacts people I know and I care about negatively, I get very, very down on myself. And I don't know if I mentioned earlier that I'm officially diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. I don't know if I have, and I probably don't have any kind of real solidified type of depression or anything like that, which I'm very grateful for. I don't take any kind of medication, and I never have. So in that way, I'm very, very lucky. And I generally try to really keep in mind and hold on to my mistakes, not in like a, oh, woe is me kind of way, but like in a way of, okay, remember this and don't do that again. Or if you're really trying to do this thing that's positive, don't do it that way because that way didn't work because of this and that, you know? And tying in with the writing stuff and the storytelling, a lot of the stories that I tell often have characters or at least a character that goes through something like that, where they really think, okay, I'm making a conscious effort to do this thing that's going to help everybody and it's going to be great. And yeah, it's awesome. And I'm not thinking about myself. I'm thinking about everybody else. And what they do ends up not actually having everybody's best interests in mind. And it's not necessarily the answer to what they're trying to do. It's not the solution. And people get hurt as a result. Or, you know, a situation is changed and takes a turn for the worse. And, you know, the stories that I write in that way are kind of like, not so much a warning, but they're like a lesson. I like it, not meant to be even be in like a preachy way, but just like by example of like, I like it when, you know, TV shows, movies, video games, books, comics, whatever, you know, any sort of storytelling media of any kind, whatever the medium. My favorites are the ones that have a really strong lesson of some kind to take away from them. Something that will leave a lasting impact on you. And Tome, like I was saying before, I think that for me, Tome, it was definitely Nihilok and Game Creators I think had the biggest impact. Zeto was another character, for me personally, had a lot of myself in his development, which again I won't spoil. Game Creators and Nihilok, I think, on a bigger perspective, I'm much prouder of like the impact that they left on everybody else. Zeto was more of a character that I think was kind of like me teaching a lesson to myself, I think, in some ways, and like kind of reminding myself of what it is that I'm doing and, you know, what it is that I do and why do I do it, etc. In that sort of way. And maybe that's even kind of like self-aggrandizing in some way. I don't really know. I've talked about that before on some of my career blogs, but that's a whole other story. But then with Cryomore, like I can't go into the full details because I don't want to spoil anything. But there's a similar kind of scenario where, you know, the idea of like helping people, putting others before yourself, but making mistakes and not being fully self-aware and not, you know, knowing exactly what it is that you're doing and leaving a negative impact, or, you know, leaving room for a potential disaster, you know, however way you want to word it, more or less. I really tried to integrate some of that in there, and especially the main character, the main hero character, and the main villain having two very opposite ends of how they define that. In particular, was what I think I was proudest of in terms of the overall kind of message of it. You'll have to see when the game is finished, so I can't, you know, say anything more than that. But expressing a lot of what I've learned and showing the type of mistakes that I've made in my life, and drawing from those life experiences and integrating them into a storytelling aspect with other characters and scattered around in different ways and distributed and paced out in a way that is digestible and impactful and memorable, is my way of not only self-expressing, but also continuing to try to help in some way. Because, you know, maybe somebody will see this cartoon or play this game or watch this movie or whatever, and this story will leave a positive impact on them, and they will learn a lesson, and they will remember, I got to be more like this character, or I got to not be like this character, or I have to remember what this character learned, etc. A lot of different things like that. And in some ways, those stories even kind of still continue to impact me in that same kind of way. And that's kind of what's in tandem with what keeps me going in life, both creatively and, you know, it's very, it feeds the soul in a way. It keeps me hopefully growing as a human being, as an artist, you know, for my career's sake, for my life's sake, for the sake of the people that I love, that I work with, that I care about. It's all of that stuff kind of rolled together is incredibly important to me. And even now, I mean, you know, as all good people should, because, you know, you never want to stop learning. And every experience, every opportunity, everything that happens to me is another stepping stone to growing as a person. It's another sprinkle of water on the flower that is me. Good analogy. So I'm grateful to have this thing that I love to do creatively. That's part of my job, more or less. That is also directly tied to something that is a personal issue that I constantly feel the need to work on and to be self-aware of and to be learning and growing with. Having it all tie hand in hand, I think, has made for a much healthier lifestyle for me. I've learned so much about people, and a lot of different types of people. I believe the scientific description of what Asperger's syndrome is it's a mental condition that makes the person who is afflicted with it not as capable of relating with humans on an emotional level. But I've had so many amazing people in my life as a result of the creative stuff that I've done, who I've learned so many different things from and who have touched my life and who I've touched their lives. In different ways, sorry. That I'm very grateful for. Martin and Mariana being two of those people. I've known Mariana for 10 years now. And I was a person who introduced the two of them, and they've lived a wonderful marriage and a healthy life together and a great relationship that I've bore witness to for many years now, and I love them both. They're just a couple of examples. And I mean, they've gone out of their way to teach me a lot about life. My friends are my role models because I know them so intimately and I know them so personally, and I've been through so many experiences with them, and I've watched the experiences that they've had and tried to be there for them and to help them and to be selfless for them and to put them before myself. It's helped really embellish and help my life flourish, and I can't express enough gratitude for that. And you know what? I'll even say this too. I was kind of mentioning this earlier a little bit, but everybody out there who, even if maybe you just know me from Martin stuff, like if you've heard me on Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridged when I meet people at conventions who are like, oh yeah, no, it was really funny, or people who have seen my cartoons or my animations, if you enjoyed Leather Pants, or if you watched Home or anything like that. Any of you guys and gals and everything in between out there who take the time to even just give enough of a shit to watch and hopefully enjoy what it is that I've done creatively, like that, I can't even tell you how incredibly important and impactful that is to me. I truly mean that. So thank you. I think that's kind of going to wrap me up, but I guess I just kind of give the final few thoughts on this. If you develop your own sense of what you consider to be right and wrong, it's good to stick to your guns, but you have to be open, and you have to understand that your way is not always the highway, or not even necessarily that mentality, but like even if you really believe in something, it might not necessarily be the best thing for everybody. It might be the best thing for some people, or maybe even yourself, and you just, you don't have enough perspective or enough context on the world or the people that or whatever, what have you, that it's not necessarily the right answer. But there's so many different answers to solving any kind of problem with anybody and anything. And I'm a problem solver type of guy. I try to go out of my way to help people. I try to go out of my way to be a positive influence on people. I try to be respectful. I try to be cool, not in like a I'm cool kind of way, but I try to be like chill and relaxing to people as much as I can. That's something I've learned. For instance, I've tried to tone down my obnoxiousness way down and be a little bit more, down to earth and, just relatable to my friends in a way that is not overbearing. So, and I've never personally ever really tried to like go out of my way to really hurt somebody, like intentionally with like, I'm going to make this person upset. Like there's very few things in my life I can ever imagine where I've been like maliciously indulgent, because I really don't have that in me to do that kind of stuff. So never stop learning. Stick to what you believe in for sure, but continue to be open and learn and tweak what it is that you have and hold true to that. And, if your intention is positive, you might still screw up. You might still have some times where unfortunately it blows up in your face. It's going to happen through one way or another. Don't beat yourself up. Don't lose hope. Don't give up and suddenly be like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? You might get to that place. I certainly have been there before, and it's not fun. And I know Martin, I'm sure, has probably been there as well. He's probably talked about stuff like that in many of the previous episodes. But just if you truly believe in your heart that you're striving to be a good human being to the people that you care about and to just people in general, and you're growing as a human being all in tandem with each other, you're going to be good. You're going to be fine. And, I hesitate to say it'll pay off, because it's not for the sake of like being rewarded. It's for the sake of knowing that you're a good person, truly, like really being able to be okay with yourself, because sometimes it can be difficult to just like yourself, to know and really own the fact that you are a good person. You can own things about yourself. You can own aspects and like really stay true to that. But having a complete sense of oneself and 100% being affirmative in that, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of life experiences and a lot of mistakes to make and a lot of lessons to learn. But you can get to a really, really great position with yourself, and a position as in like a state of being that you can be really comfortable and happy and proud of, especially if other people are proud of you. If other people do tell you you're a good person, hey, I'm really proud of you, hey, you did awesome. They're not blowing smoke up your ass, in theory. I'm very lucky that I have people like that in my life, many people who tell me stuff like that and appreciate me for who I am and what I do and what I strive to do. And, and I never forget that, but I always want to strive to do better, because I know that I can do better. And I'm 26. My life is nowhere near close to over, as far as I'm aware, until I get whisked away to an alien world, and then numbers are meaningless. That was a good joke, Chris. Anyway, I think that's about it. That's going to wrap me up. So thank you for listening. Martin and Mariana, thank you guys again for letting me do this. Keep watching. I'm sure, Martin will have many more great ones like these, many more experiences to talk about, maybe some other guests to join in. And, thank you again for listening and watching, and, take care of yourselves and each other. Jerry Springer, 2015. 2015? It's a good way to end it, Chris. It's good.